today's actions, we're also standing up for our great farmers and ranchers who are brutalized by nations all over the world. It's brutalized. We got to work on eggs, and we got to work on everything. And our great Secretary of Agriculture, you did a fantastic job. Brooke Rollins, you did a fantastic job. And as I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic.
President Trump praising his new Agriculture Secretary, Brooke Rollins, as he announced the details on his reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries to address years, he says, of unfair trade policies. And joining us this morning is USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins. Good morning. Great to see you.
Good morning. So great to be with you.
You have said that this will address unfair trade barriers, especially for these markets where we do have access to ensure we're treated fairly on a level playing field. But American families want to know, Madam Secretary, will this raise prices for food?
Well, first of all, what a great joy to be with you. Listen, let me show you this chart. I think this kind of puts this into perspective. Yesterday, of course, as you mentioned in the prelude, the president had his Liberation Day here at the White House. We were out in the Rose Garden. Been working on this for a long time. Obviously, the president has been very clear that the tariff is a tool in his toolkit to realign the American economy, to support and to allow all Americans to prosper. This chart's really interesting. You can see India, the average tariff on American products. You can see Taiwan, Japan, China, the average tariff. And then there's little America back over here. So they're tariffing us at almost 3 times on average what we charge and what we are tariffed when we bring the products in. The bottom line is this: the entire economic system needs to be realigned around putting America and American farmers first. Is that going to cause some uncertainty in the market? Of course it is. This is a whole new day. This is a president who is bold and is fearless in his vision for effectuating that. When he ran for president, he talked about a lot of different things, but food prices was a big part of it. But at the end of the day, he is convinced, his vision is, and I agree, that those prices will come down.
Speaking of which, you mentioned there could be some consequences. Retaliatory tariffs, as we know, could hit some of our farmers and ranchers, especially hard when it comes to trade war targets like corn and soybeans. During the first Trump administration, the USDA distributed $23 billion to offset those retaliatory tariffs. Is the USDA prepared to do that again?
So what we are talking about at USDA is that, well, first of all, it will take months to fully understand if, in fact, there are some significant retaliatory tariffs that we need to make sure that we're mitigating for our farmers and our ranchers. The last time under Secretary Perdue, it was decided within, I think, maybe 4 to 6 months later that, in fact, some of those farmers were hurt in the short term, especially to your point, the soybean, corn, sorghum, et cetera. So we are looking at that. We will be prepared for it when it is time. But listen, that's months away. Right now, we're letting the president negotiate on behalf of the American people, and believe that we will see in very short order some real positive change.
I know that Congress right now working on this farm bill. One of the more troubling aspects has been Chinese land ownership here in America. How surprised were you to learn 350,000 acres of American farmland is controlled by Chinese-owned companies? And what are we going to do about that?
Listen, this is a major issue. And in fact, a couple of years ago, before I joined the cabinet, I was leading the America First Policy Institute. And that was a very big part of the portfolio over there, was not just working at the federal government, but at the state level. And then Governor Kristi Noem, current Governor Sarah Sanders, some other great governors around the country had already started to make moves to disallow that from happening, the Chinese from buying our farmland. This is a national security threat. It is something that I believe we need a federal government, even though I'm a big states' rights, 10th Amendment, Founding Fathers, Laboratories of Democracy believer. There are some things that do rise to the level of the federal government. This is one of them, and we are going to be taking some pretty quick action soon on how we address that. But it is a major issue now.
And very quickly, I know the federal government played a big role in the transgender athlete ban to ensure biological boys do not compete in girls' sports. Tell us more about the action you took yesterday, freezing funds to public schools in the state of Maine.
Well, listen, I was in the room when the Maine governor decided to stand up and challenge President Trump on boys in girls sports, and basically the decimation of what a girl and a woman is when you allow a biological male to run track, to play volleyball, to play basketball. None of it makes sense. I mean, right, like, make it make sense. But when that governor stood up and I saw the president just directly address and say, there will be consequences. We are stewards of the federal taxpayer dollar. We are going to make sure every penny that leaves the federal government coffers that goes into the states is aligned with the law, first of all, but with the values. And so that's a really important piece of this. So yesterday, we sent a letter to the governor of Maine from USDA, which USDA sends a lot of money into the states, saying we're freezing the funds until you comply with federal law. We will not be sending you taxpayer dollars that come through the federal government.
USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins, great to see you. Thank you for joining us here on the National News Desk.
Thank you so much.